church, and then we have. It's kind of cool. I think it's actually really cool. They do like a welcome dinner at church. So like the head pastor, priest, rector, he has, I don't know, maybe 4 times a year or 3 times a year, like a welcome dinner in his home. And if you've been like attending for a number of months, then you can like ask to come to the welcome dinner. And like most of the staff is there, and a couple like, I don't know, long time lay people. And so you get to go into the home of the pastor and have dinner and chat. So that's tomorrow night.
Okay, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's so different. Like the last church I was involved in was a mega church, and like you go from thousands to 100, maybe not even 100, and it's been very refreshing, different, but like nice.
Yeah, yeah. The church we went to before we moved was probably, I don't know, 150 people, maybe a little bit more than that. Um, it had some dynamism because there was Air Force Base, and somehow we had got connected with people rotating in and out from the Air Force Base. So we kind of had this steady rotation of, especially the officers that worked there, we were assigned there, and they would have families and children. So you'd get this whole young children and families kind of come through for a few years, and then they'd get rotated off, and some of them would end up staying. So anyway, that was kind of the it reminds me of like fish waiting for this things coming down the stream, but that was kind of the
Mm.
stream we were in. And then there were the people who had like basically lived there their whole lives and things like that. um, Very nice place. Wasn't a mega church, but nice place. And now we're in a church that's probably, oh goodness, 30 people or something like
Oh
that. I
wow.
don't really know. It's really small. It's really small. And so I haven't counted like on a Sunday morning, but I'm thinking maybe
But you
20
could.
people. Yeah, you could definitely. Yeah. I think it's a small building, and there's probably like 8 pews on each side, and that's it. So, and it's definitely not full. But then we have coffee afterwards. So the pastor does a good job, and it's very, very um, uh, standardized, his liturgy, how he puts it together, which I enjoy. And no band or anything. We just sing out of the hymn book. And then we have coffee time afterwards, and almost everybody stays. Not everybody stays, but almost everybody does. So then you get to sit around a table and see how these people interact with each other, because they've pretty much been together, like their whole lives. and
Yeah.
and that's interesting in a different way, because it's they're all very nice, not only to me because I'm new. You kind of expect either they'll be really bad or really nice to a new person, but they're very nice to me and my wife. But also seeing them interact with each other and how they're kind to each other, and it's been very nice, very wholesome. And I look forward to going to church in each Sunday. I like the pastor and the way he preaches and the things he's talking about and the structure of it and the amount of participation. And then you're just sitting around and watching these people talk to each other, and that's fun too. Trying to see if I can kind of join in and and help tend the garden a little bit, and it's been fun. So,
Okay, so I'm curious how long you and your wife have been there. And then did you say there's liturgy?
well, kind of. It's conservative Presbyterian. He doesn't wear no
Oh.
robes or choir, and um, it's I grew up in like kind of quasi independent Baptist association, and
Yeah.
spent some time in Southern Baptist, and we kind of ended up in conservative Presbyterian, um, at my wife's instigation, but it's worked out anyway. You were asking me something. How long? Oh, we moved in September, and
Oh,
this
okay.
we're in a very small town. We're outside of a very small town. We're out in the country a few miles, and the town is like 1,500 people. It's not very big at all. Um, Couple of gas stations, small supermarket, um, quite a few churches of different kinds, mostly Baptist.
Yeah.
Um, and And somebody told me that most of the people going to the Presbyterian church are former Baptists, but it's more fun. The Presbyterian church is more fun, so they stay. That's what they told. I don't know if that's true, but yeah, it's been really nice. I really enjoyed it. So, and it was the same denomination of the church we were at in Columbus. And when we came down, it was like, is there one like that nearby? And sure enough, there was. It was a little place, and they would appreciate having us there. And so, and it's been a nice place so far. There's probably some bugs under the rocks if I were to turn over rocks, but I'm not really in a mood to turn over rocks. They seem to be taking care of themselves pretty well, and need me
Yeah.
to dig through the past and whatever. So they're helping each other get by from day to day. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's that's so interesting because like my little Anglican parish is seems to be quite full of former Baptists, and I
They're
don't
everywhere.
know.
They're everywhere.
Like, I mean, that's what I am. Like, my megachurch had Baptist roots. It became non-denominational, but it was Baptist.
Yeah.
Um, and even like yesterday, I was listening to some of PVK and Job's conversation, and Job was talking about kind of going in further back in the tradition, and there's been so much talk about like Orthodox and Catholic,
Right.
and I'm going like I think there's more than just those two, because at least here in America, like again, I have like kind of blinders on because I've entered Anglicanism, so Anglican's what I'm seeing.
Right.
But the American Anglican, like larger association, is like it started in like 2008, and even right now as we speak, they've just like essentially had some version of a schism happen,
Yes.
and so there's just there's something in the air, and I feel like it has so much to do with liturgy, like returning to like liturgical living. That's I feel like the thing that I'm almost every story I hear has people going like, yeah, I've joined liturgy, I'm kind of living more liturgically. It's just so interesting.
Yeah. And I don't have a lot of experience with that. When we were kind of wandering for a couple of years. We moved back to Iowa and lived in an area that we couldn't find one place that we really liked. But we ended up going to a conservative Lutheran church some of the time, and they were much more, there were readings and they had this singing that I could hardly follow, where you fit the words and weird ways into this width of a note. And so that was a completely different thing to me. Much I could see much, and I don't know anything about like Roman Catholic liturgy kind of stuff, except just dribs and drabs that you get watching television or whatever, which isn't very much. So um, I it has been new, and but I like where we've landed. There's still um, there's not a lot of bells and smells kind of stuff, and I don't feel like I need and actually need an awful lot of that. And still mostly preaching. In fact, probably he preaches more than most places I've been. Um, and participatory music. I like one of the things that kind of rubbed me off, scraped. That's not the right word. I'm thinking of like walking through a hallway, and the hallway gets narrow, and I get eroded. I was eroded off as they were going down the hallway, and that was the non-participatory move toward music. I really like
Mm.
opening up the hymn book and singing. I don't want to be part of the praise team. I don't want to be up in the front. I don't want to play an instrument, but I'd like to participate. And that was something we wrestled with in the small Baptist churches that I had gone to. And how, should we get a screen, and should we go to the screen thing? Well, then you no longer have the notes, so then it's all, yeah, anyway. So the whole music thing. How did I get on that? So yeah, I don't have a big personal knowledge about liturgies,
Yeah.
but
Neither do I.
have at least a minimum that I kind of enjoy. And the parts that I enjoy are this participative music, good preaching, and people who can get along with each other. So that's not really part of liturgy. I'm sure there's other liturgical parts. Um, we do communion. I don't even know how often at this place. I think it's once a month, but it's pretty simple. and we sit in the pew, and one last time it was one guy, the one of the elders, and he's an old guy. He's just hobbling around and he's carrying this tray, and I'm thinking he's going to drop that tray. He's going to drop that tray, but he never did. And so yeah, so it's I don't know, small entertainments. He did a good job. So yeah, pretty simple stuff. We haven't had any babies baptized, and we had in Columbus and the other Presbyterian church we went to, and yeah, I'm still too much Baptist for the infant baptism thing, but I don't discount it. I think it's been going on an awful long time without me interjecting into it, but I still have this feeling like, well, like I talked about at the beginning, the kind of individualism versus corporatism and where the lines are in that. I really don't know how that fits. Um, it's yeah. Anyway, I already talked about that.
I I missed the first part. Good morning. Um,
Morning.
and sorry I slept in. I was a big old sleepyhead today. I don't know what happened.
Me too.
Usually,
Terrible,
you really
terrible. Yeah. On
must
Saturday of all things,
must be in the air.
must be.
Uh, but yeah, as you guys were talking about the churches and music, I was like, oh, I'm gonna touch the third rail when I come on.
Okay.
Of music, but it was music, and you already you just did it. You just hopped right on. You just grabbed them both
Yeah,
hands.
yeah.
Um, but my thing is like, and I've come to this, and you know, if you talk to me 10 years from now, I'll probably have changed my mind. But I right now, like when I am at church and I'm in the corporicity, the community. I know there's already a word for that, but I wanted something more slightly different than community. With with all the people, and we're singing and we're supposed to be worshiping and praising God. Like I want, I don't I don't like all the eyes. Like
Mm.
if we're gonna be referencing myself or us, like I want it to be like a we's and a ours, because we're together doing this, like not to say that there can't be Christian music with eyes, and in fact we could use some of the same music but just change the eyes to the we's. I think it would work for most songs just as well. But like we're communally together, like we're communally joining forces, it's like Captain Planet with our powers combined. uh, yeah, I yeah, I just like that's like my little thing. And so my son, it's so cute. He's in elementary, so he's not like super young. He's not a toddler anymore. But he still likes me to hold him during a lot of parts of church. And as we're singing, I'll just privately change all the I's to we's and stuff. And he sometimes gets mad, and he'll turn to my face and he'll say, sing, and he'll be like, "Hi." So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's my own little idiosyncrasy with the music, but um, I'm really distractible. So the less flashy things during corporate worship, the better for me. Just because I'm distractible. And
Yeah.
then and then Ethan, you're like the movement. You got all the Baptists in there, and we're kind of a similar church. Our church is, we probably get like 50 to 70 people a week. But we have more, people are always filtering in and out because of like sports and stuff, and I don't know, life, sickness. And we actually have a really young church, and it's like we used to be loosely associated with a denomination, but we lost our denominational affiliation a couple of years ago because they wanted our pastor to sign um like one of the confessional things or something, and he's like, well, their view on scripture I didn't quite adhere. I did, like, it wasn't quite right. I gave other options, and I guess the boards, anyways, that's a whole dry stuff. You don't want to hear that. So so basically we're like kind of like an Anglican light with a little bit of with a little bit of uh orthodoxy mixed in. Like he almost always shows an orthodox icon in the background during his preaching, and he'll often reference the art as he's preaching. but we
Metagelical.
follow but we follow the common book of prayer, and more or less, and we follow like the liturgical reading calendar and stuff, and all that. So um my wife really likes it, and because she came from a non-denominational church as well, and but that was like, like your classic seeker sensitive church, but it was in a small town, so it couldn't be a mega church. But but they kind of were that way. And um it's funny, as she's gone through a lot of medical issues and things, and as she's gone through that, she finds that the liturgy, because within the liturgy there's a lot of discussion of pain and sadness and grief, or at least she feels that they do a
Mm.
lot better job of incorporating that into the corporate worship, because it's not always like happy sunshine and bubblegum.
Yeah.
And so and so for her, and coming out of that long period of grief and hardness, she feels like that helps her connect. And so it's kind of funny, because we had that conversation where we're both like coming out of a place where the emphasis was on making the relational personal. Coming out of a place of making the relational personal with God. So we have that grounding, and we have that grounding in scripture, and deep diving into the word, God's word. um, but now we're moving to a place where the liturgy and the rhythms of that type of life have bring us life, help us reconnect with those aspects in a deeper, more meaningful way. Like it builds upon each other. But we're just worried that, a lot of, like, our parents came out of those traditions and kind of rebelled against those traditions, because they thought those liturgies were empty and they didn't have any life or spirit in them.
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
so and so we're kind of like, we're in this place, but how do we help our son experience spirit filledness and life givingness of being able to embrace the the relational with the Almighty personally, in a very personal manner, and diving into that, but then also embrace the liturgy and the mechanistic forms of having that. Like, how can we help them experience both from our place? um
That is
that
the
was
question.
Yeah, that wasn't actually where I was going, but I guess
Yeah, it
that's where
was
I ended.
interesting you bring up the history about how kind of liturgy kind of was out for a while and down, 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 and now we're kind of coming back, back, back toward it again.
Mhm.
Um, my own history, I think we were kind of off to the side because they were kind of independent and did what they wanted to. But I can see that. Now it was framed at the time that the kind of mainline liturgical things had been corrupted, which is
Mhm.
always, if you're going to do something, it's like, oh, those other guys are doing it wrong. That's always,
Mhm.
whether or not it's true, I don't know. But they had been like doctrinally corrupted in some way, and so we had to stand aside and do our own thing, in order to kind of keep purity in some way. And yeah, okay, I can kind of see how that fits together. That's one of the that's one of the trade-offs with either a hierarchy or a independence is how if what do you do when the hierarchy takes a wrong turn, or
Mhm.
but you have the same issue with independence because independence can also take a wrong turn. That's not unusual at all for some independent, KJV only, although that's not them, of course, completely. But when you're a kind of an outpost, then there's usually like one or two people that are kind of setting the path, and that's that's has the same problem. Maybe the only thing to be said for it is that the it's a smaller explosion, when that happens and that guy goes wrong and that church disappears and all those people decide that they're unhappy with God for the rest of their lives. That's maybe a smaller, limits the damage to some degree than if some bishop or somebody does it at a higher layer. I don't know. I've been in the independent world, so I don't really know much about what it's like to be handed things down from on high and said, this is the way you're going to do that. And I live in the United States where that's kind of out of style too. So